course, he would struggle. He would have these struggles when it came to conditioning and practice, but it didn't really add up. We knew he had all the physical gifts. He had more physical gifts than probably anybody on the team. In our minds, he's like, what the hell? Why is he not being able to get through this practice?
He told me that, Lance was being a pussy and that he wasn't playing hard and that he wouldn't try hard and that he quit on drill. It was very alarming to hear Lance say that he was struggling physically, and then the coaches say that it was mental and that, it was, we're just pushing him hard. Quite frankly, my experience with Lance's was that you couldn't push him hard enough.
We found out was oxygen would help. Then the next thing was IVs.
In his mind, he knows why they have him on these antidepressants, but he knows it's not solving the problem.
Something that was really going on within him.
My name is Dr. Tamia Austin. I have a doctorate of public health, and my field of study is sickle cell trait literacy. I joined the Aslan Foundation back in March 1st, 2010. That was my introduction to sickle cell trait. Our founder was born with sickle cell trait and lost his brother, an athlete at Florida State University, to sickle cell trait exertion. I just kind of dove headfirst into the whole why of that, and certainly how his death could be used to prevent others like his. Sickle cell trait is not something you can catch. You inherit it through birth. Sickle cell trait is usually the result of one parent carrying one copy of the abnormal sickle gene. Well, I just wanted to clarify that it is the most common genetic disorder that was, it happened by natural selection as protection from malaria in sub-Saharan Africa, but of course, migration, mixed race births, there are all types of things that have contributed to sickle cell trait spreading beyond African nations to Indian, Mediterranean, Irish, Italian, Greece, Turkey. The next largest population outside of those of African descent is the Latino or Hispanic population. So we always say that sickle cell and sickle cell trait is a blood condition, not a skin color thing. Literally anyone, white, blonde hair, blue-eyed, can live with sickle cell disease or trait. Black people of African descent tend to be overrepresented in the numbers because our education, our information does not enforce and reinforce the family planning aspect. We pass it to our children. There are numerous symptoms that are associated back to sickle cell trait in the research. AV and avascular necrosis, acute chest syndrome, splenic infarction, retinopathy, chronic fatigue. All of those are symptoms. It can happen in cold. It can happen in lukewarm temperature. Heat is not, because it's not the heat. It is your body and your cells not being, your body not being able to recover or regenerate fast as a normal blood cell. So that can happen at in any condition. Splenic infarction is something that happens at high or low elevation. I've heard people describe it when they're flying. That pressure makes your blood cells not cooperate in the way that they should. So your body is still trying to breathe, trying to still process your blood through your cells and veins and arteries, and that process can become slower because your cells are sickling and sticking together and causing blockages in those cells. And if you are blocking the blood flow to certain organs, such as what happened to Ryan Clark playing at elevation in Denver when he was with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He had a host of organ failure because the blood flow to those organs was blocked. There are plenty of medical professionals that will say to you, sickle cell trait is symptomatic and is not benign. There is also a rare and fatal kidney cancer that is statistically 100% associated with sickle cell trait warriors, as we term them. Only sickle cell trait people living with sickle cell trait contract this type of cancer. And more research is associating the exertion and sickle cell trait to this cancer. If sickle cell trait is the common denominator, how can sickle cell trait be benign? How can sickle cell trait be asymptomatic?
I'm Lance Kearse, originally from Fort Myers, Florida. Throughout my childhood, I always suffered from fatigue issues. Even though I was a high-level athlete, I would cramp up a lot. I remember playing AAU basketball in middle school. We would have a drive back from a game and they would have to pull over to the side because I get a cramp in my hamstring. I have to jump out of the car on the side of the highway. I would cramp in the middle of the game. My toes would lock up, a bunch of different things.
Keep them both in the top. So the coach's son ends up on a poster on the baseline. Extraordinary from Miami. Lance Kearse will throw that down.
Well, there is one memory of Lance. He was a small kid. I mean, Lance had to be maybe 2, 3 years old at the most. And I remember it was me, his mother, and Lance. Lance was in the back seat in a car seat, and we were driving to his mother's house. I'm in the front seat. And Lance, got out of the car seat, and we didn't know that. And so when she went to turn the corner, Lance opened the door. And while the car was moving, the door flung open, and I looked back, and Lance was holding on to the armrest, and he was holding on for dear life. And so when she stopped the car, I ran around the corner, I went to grab him, and he was still locked on the door rest, and I said, wow, this kid's strong. Lance was born into a family of sports, so he's been around it all his life. And so at an early age, I noticed that Lance was very competitive. He did not like to lose in anything, no matter what it was. A simple game of kickball or a simple game of basketball, he did not like to lose. One memory I do have is that I would take Lance to the basketball court with me. His mother, I was a teenager, early 20s, and his mother had a car, and I would always want to borrow the car. And so one stipulation to get in the car was I had to take Lance with me. And so I would always take Lance to the basketball court with me. I would sit him to the side and say, hey, Lance, just watch. Sit down, don't move. And as a 6, 7-year-old, 8-year-old kid, you would think that kid would get up and walk away or wander off, but he didn't. He watched what we did. He watched us play. He learned the game by watching us play. One point in time when Lance was around 10, maybe 11 years old, we didn't have enough people on the court to play a complete game. And I asked Lance, did he want to step on the court and play? And he did, and he surprised me with what his athletic ability at that time was. And so I knew that he had a bright future in basketball.
Shortly after that, I tried for the 6th grade basketball team. Contrary to what most people would believe, I did not make the team. It was a rough time for me. At 11 years old, I didn't know what to do. I was distraught. I was, heartbroken. I didn't make the team because I just wanted to be an athlete my entire life. My cousin played, and I wanted to be like him. I thought that, since I come from a family of athletes, I have a second cousin that played in the NFL who played with the Tennessee Titans and the Philadelphia Eagles, and I was like, if he's athletic, then I can do it. Like, we're from the same family, same blood. Why can't I do it?
He could not bench press 100 pounds at probably age 12 or 13. All right, he was not, the way he looked now, he did not look like that when I trained him. He was uncoordinated. He didn't have any strength, any power, did not want to come to training, so he just kept training and kept working. So understand this is somebody that I started with that started my program. So he was one of the first people that started training with me when I first started being a trainer. 21 years I've been training athletes. I do speed development, strength training, position training. I coach a lot of DBs. I do strength conditioning. Some athletes that I trained are J.C. Jackson, Sammy Watkins, Jalen Watkins, Robert Jackson, Dearness Johnson, Dietrich Sinat, and all those guys are in the league. I've actually met Lance. Lance had to be like probably 8 or 9, somewhere around there. I've been training Lance for about 14, 15 years. Lance came to me uncoordinated, very skinny, no strength. I mean, had no explosiveness, didn't like an athlete. And he finally just started like training a lot harder. Then he turned into an athlete, but he got good genes. So I mean, his family has a good history of like a lot of athletes in the family. But he did not come to me an athlete at all. He was not good at all. Like right around his probably 7th or 8th grade year, I noticed when he turned the corner in AAU basketball, I started seeing him score more points, a little more stronger on the court. People started to notice who he was. Then when he got in high school, it just carried over.
I'm Tom Topping. I was the head coach and director of Nike Team Florida back when Lance played for us. We were one of 3 teams at the time that had a Nike contract. There was a lot of talent in the state of Florida, and we were all going after that talent. The first time that I ever saw Lance play was at his high school gym in Fort Myers, at Fort Myers High School. And I had heard about Lance, and I have to tell you, when I go into a high school gym to see a player, in a program like ours, where we've had some really, really great players, Nick Calathis, Chandler Parsons, Lance, Scotty Wilbekin, we've had Jason Rich. We had kids go to all over the country, from Sasha Khan played at Kansas and won the national championship. Walter Hodge went to Florida, won 2 national championships. So we had really, really good players in our program. And so I couldn't, I'll put it to you this way, when I went into a gym, I tried not to be overly enthusiastic before I saw the player play. And most of the time I had to keep a relative poker face in watching players play. Lance was clearly outstanding. He was a bit of a tweener when he played for us. He wasn't a terrific perimeter shooter at the time. He loved to play around the basket. 6'6", super athletic, played like Superman. We used to joke, he played with number 15, and we used to joke with him, is that an S on your chest, or what is that there? And Lance was just all over the place. And he was such a super athlete of the scale that we don't always get with Nike basketball. We get great players, but we don't always get absolutely amazing athletes.
Up with the block. Sanders in the open court. Sanders with the stuff.
He like baby LeBron. I remember saying that, and just the way he played. To me, he was like just like a specimen. Like, he was just physically very gifted. He was super fast. He was athletic. He could shoot the ball. So, I remember seeing him and being like, why the hell is this kid walking around on his tippy toes and shit? Like what is he got in his fucking legs that we don't know? Because he was always walking on his toes. And I think it's just his athleticism, but you know, and then got to know him a little bit in high school, and then got to know each other. And yeah, he was just always bigger. You know, at that time we was frail, we was smaller frames, but Lance was like a bigger kid. So, you know, he was just physically had different gifts too that made him exceptional at the game.
My first encounter with Lance was heard of him, hadn't seen him, hadn't met him. He was playing for Fort Myers High School in the city of Palms, which is a huge high school basketball tournament down in Fort Myers. Coaches from all over the country, high-level teams from everywhere, and packed house, no place to sit really. And I was there to watch him, to see if we wanted to invite him to come to Nike Team Florida. He scored about 31 points, got 15 rebounds, a whole bunch of assists, block shots, did all of that stuff. And I was standing kind of over in the corner because there was no place to sit down. And standing next to me was the assistant coach from the University of Florida, Donnie Jones. And I knew Donnie, and he said, "Who are you here to watch?" Now, he's here to watch a lot of people. And I said, "Well, how much is Lance Kearse?" Lance makes this play. Donnie goes, "That's what he does." He makes another play. Donnie looks at me, makes another play. Donnie, and I was like, he keeps making all these great plays. And Donnie was like, "Maybe I should be watching him, okay? I'm at the University of Florida. You're coaching a high school travel team. Maybe I should be watching him."
Lance played a really, really unique position for us, and in that he played a small forward position. And part of the unique thing that we did offensively was we ran a numbered fast break, and Lance would take the ball out after a made basket and kind of trail the play a little bit, but we would always run Lance a back screen for, you know, after we entered. He would come down, we'd screen for him, and then first look every time down the floor was a lob to Lance. And my assistant coach, Coach Hall, and I used to laugh a little bit because when we ran that play early and we would throw that lob for Lance, he looked like Superman flying through the air to get it, and the only thing that was missing was a cape, because we had run that play for years and years, and and we never had a guy really be able to go finish the way Lance could. If the ball was thrown up there, it was a dunk. Other guys that we had, not everybody, but most of the guys that ran that play, they could dunk it, but a lot of times it was a layup, but not for Lance. Lance always finished that play.
As we know, Lance went on to Virginia Commonwealth University, where the head coach was former assistant University of Florida coach Anthony Grant. So that happened right there.
VCU is a program where just about anybody can go there and be successful. Everything is in place for a really good coach to go be successful. And we had known Coach Grant for a while, and felt like, you know, Lance would be challenged at VCU. It's a great league, great school, but that, you know, he would go up there and perform well. VCU was coming off some really, really exciting years as Lance was headed up that way. And so, you know, everything was in place for Lance to be successful as a college basketball player, no matter where it was, but in particular at VCU.
Kidding me? 10 seconds left, and here we go. Maynard, is this the dagger?
When we got to VCU, it was the same day. We played a lot. He was, you know, he was getting himself acclimated. We all were. But because I kind of grew up when Lance and I saw him play when he was younger, I got a chance to experience his hunger for the game, his hunger for wanting to get better, how much he loved to practice, how much he loved to play, how much he loved to shoot the ball, to play defense. You know, like he really had a hunger for the game. You know, and I saw the league in the picture for him. That's what I saw personally. We noticed he would struggle. He would have these struggles when it came to conditioning and practice, but it didn't really add up because we knew he had all the physical gifts. He had more physical gifts than probably anybody on the team, being at his size, his agility, his speed, and he knew how to play the game as well. So, and he had effort and will. He was a dog. He's not like Lance, not soft. So we, in our minds, we was like, what the hell? Why is he not being able to get through this practice? Like, what's going on? Like, and we couldn't wrap our mind. We was like, is it mental? Like, you know, because we all doing the same things, but he's struggling the most. And like I said, he has more attributes to succeed than all of us. So we really didn't understand what was going on.
Their defense, and that youngster right there, Lance Kearse, getting it done. Kearse has 10.
You know, the coaches were really pushing him hard, and I spoke to one of the assistant coaches, and you know, he told me that, you know, Lance was being a pussy and that he wasn't playing hard and that he wouldn't try hard and that he would you know, quit on drills. And none of this sounded like the Lance Kearse that I knew. You know, you had to pull Lance out of a game.
With sickle cell, you can't just jump into an exercise. You can't just go 0 to 100. Preseason conditioning starts. That's where it hits. That's where this story takes a turn for the worse. We would have our preseason conditioning test on Wednesday. If you didn't make it on Wednesday, you would have to come make up for it on Saturday. Mind you, we're in a gym, it's called the Franklin Street Gym. Franklin Street Gym is hell on earth. Franklin Street Gym had no central air and heat. It didn't have proper ventilation. It was 15 degrees hotter inside than outside. If it was 90 outside, it was 105 inside. We practiced in a sauna. We're pushing a towel across the ground. Like we would put a towel, fold it, and we would have to push it across the court, almost like a sled. But imagine the resistance, the friction from the towel across the court. It's not wet or anything. It is tough to push it through it. My hamstrings cramp up. Boom, I fall over to the side. Before you know it, everywhere my body cramp up, so I'm in a full body cramp. Toes, neck, everything is locked up. I'm like, oh shit, I'm dead.
And he was screaming, I remember your legs in the air, and he was like, I'm cramping. And you look and you can see the cramps moving in his leg and in his arm and his body. He would cramping, dog, cramping. And he let out a scream, ah!
So this was the backside of Franklin Street Gym. This is where I cramped up, almost lost my kidneys. This is where they had to bring me down the stairs. This is where the ambulance came back, took me to the hospital. You know, it's just, you know, those moments, you think about it and you're just like, you know, how did I survive that? You know, did I really live through that? And just being in this very same place, it kind of brings tears to my eyes right now. Like I'm feeling it right now because I experienced that, and that was like one of the worst times of my life. It's where I was in the most pain, I was the most confused, and I had no sense of direction. So this is the spot. This is where they pushed me into the back of the ambulance and drove me off.
We see this a lot because our organization focuses on young athletes in particular, where they are being accused of being lazy and not giving their all, not going hard, when the fact of the matter is they have sickle cells. A person living with sickle cell trait has cells that can sickle, and any sickle cell takes way longer, sometimes 50, 60, 70, 80, 100% longer to regenerate than a normal red blood cell. Well, when that happens, your recovery time is much slower. So you may appear to be lazy. You may appear like you don't want to do it. You feel a lack of energy, but that lack of energy is a scientific thing that's happening in your body. What happens in a normal red blood cell is happening at a much slower pace for those cells, those sickled cells in your body. That is one of the biggest ones and probably the most overlooked, the chronic fatigue. I've heard pro athletes say, my teammates are long gone from the locker room and I'm still trying to recover. That is scientific. That is not a subjective judgment call. Your body, after exerting on a football field or a basketball gym or running or whatever it is, your physical exertion outlet, your body has to recover.
They call the ambulance, they rush me to the hospital. I guess I pass out on the way to the hospital, wake up, EKGs, IVs, everything in me. Doctor comes in. She's like, Lance, you're lucky. You're lucky that your body cramped up because it saved you. Because if your body didn't cramp up, you could have lost your kidneys. Your CK, your muscle breakdown levels are pretty high. It could have compromised your kidneys. You're lucky. I'm sitting there like, what is she talking about? And from there, I had to take out a month where I couldn't practice with the team. I would go to the hospital and get vials of blood taken out so they can run tests. They did an EMG to see if there was some type of myopathy there. They did a biopsy. They took a piece of muscle out of the leg, sent it off, test, and they're like, well, there's nothing wrong. But during the season, I would still have to sit out. I would watch them practice. I would get up jump shots after practice, go watch film, and then I would play in some games, all right? And some games, I did good, and some games I did bad. And what determined that was how hard I practiced. So if I practiced hard prior to that game, I couldn't play in the game. My body just wouldn't give me anything. But if I sat down, went to the bike, got up jump shots, watched them practice, went to the film and watched practice, that same practice and the other team that we're gonna play, I did better because I had to be more of a cerebral player than a physical player. And there were some games where I would score 17 points, 19 minutes. The last game of that season, my freshman season, I scored 16 points, 19 minutes in the NIT tournament against UAB.
Free throw. He's the only active senior on the roster after Paul Delaney was hurt.
Well, I think in college he was going through a lot. But for some reason, he would always score a lot of points and play good. So it was really hard for coaches to get a beat on whether it was just him being tired or him just, not being conditioned. But he was always over exceptional on the court. So it was really hard to really tell what was really going on.
See what these gentlemen have done tonight. Now, Maynor is right on par. Schuler is above that average, but look at Lance Kearse. I like his game. He's a live wire, very creative, face up and make shots, and he's been impressive attacking a bucket. Once again, he is a cousin of Javon Kearse, the former NFL. What was the nickname Javon Kearse had? The Freak, wasn't it? The Freak, that's right. Freak. And you talk to Anthony Grant, the head coach of VCU, and he'll tell you the future is very bright for Lance Kearse.
So my issues wasn't academic or classroom issues. I made the Dean's List early in that year. It was mostly me not having energy, and it looked like I wasn't giving effort. So it coming across as if I'm this extremely athletic and gifted guy, but I look lazy. At the end of my season, freshman season, I had a really big game. The coaches pulled me to the side and said, Lance, we need to hire you a psychologist. Psychologist is gonna help you with your mental approach to the game. And it's me and him fighting for about a couple months.
And now Lance is a junior going into his senior year of high school. And he's never played football. And I called the coach at UCF. I said, I've got a guy here who's a superstar. The bottom line is we wind up in the head coach's office at UCF, and the head coach at UCF offers him a football scholarship, and he's never played football. True.
I was offered a scholarship to play at University of Central Florida by Coach O'Leary. When they were at practice, one player died from sickle cell. He was experiencing pain in his back. His legs were cramping. He had a full body cramp. I was like, I think I have what this guy had. His name was Eric Plancher, sickle cell. He was like, Lance, we don't know. Because they did the test and didn't find anything. They did your muscle biopsy, didn't find anything, blood didn't find anything. I know that the team was pressuring him to diagnose me with something else. Doctor's like, no, Lance. I think it's more of a mental issue. I think you're dealing with some form of PTSD. They thought that my anxiety from growing up in the ghetto, because I had told the psychiatrist my whole life story. So they turned around and used my whole life story of trauma that I had been through and told me that, Lance, what you're going through is a figment of your imagination. Your brain is tricking your body to cramp up because you saw so much growing up, so much carnage and drugs and syringes and prostitutes and all this stuff growing up, that your body is now having the after effect of that. I'm like, no, listen to me. I don't have issues. Trust me, I don't have issues. Let's figure something else out. No, we're not figuring nothing out. You got to take these pills.
I remember one time Lance was maybe 13 years old. We're at his mom's house, we're in the parking lot just hanging out, talking, and we witnessed a guy get murdered. 15 feet away from us. Guy walks up to him, put a gun to his head, shoot him, guy falls in the ditch. Lance and I are right there watching it. In the late 80s to early 90s, the crack epidemic took hold, and it changed our community forever.
Growing up in Fort Myers, Florida, I came in around at the height of the crack epidemic. This is when people were running wild in the streets, people were getting shot, people were getting killed. So this was the other side of Narcos that you don't get to see on Netflix shows, right? This is what happens into the community where the crack cocaine was imported, right? This is where you get the war on drugs, where you get certain people in the media calling people like myself that are like 5, 6, 7 years old super predators. Like they would, they kind of painted us as the bad people, and that we're the little kids that are gonna come kill you. But it was, imagine growing up in an environment where you have a guy putting a gun to your head because he thinks you stole his radio, and then you have a cop putting a gun to your head because he thinks you robbed somebody. And that's what happened to me. Like, I didn't know who to trust.
Those type of things, it points to the environment that we come from. I'm not saying it to kind of, glorify the environment, but it's important to know, someone's background, to know who they are.
The doctors, psychiatrists, the team, the staff, they all had a meeting. They all came to agreement that what I was suffering with was a figment of my imagination, that whatever I was experiencing was mental, and it was forcing my body to cramp up.
He was open then. He has not been open that many times that he wasn't contested on his shot.
Kearse knocks down the three-pointer. Kearse has not been playing lately.
Now they have me on these behavior forums and I can't do anything. And then he comes in and he says, the coach, he's like, Lance, I think we need to put you on severe anxiety depression medication, because what's going on is that you are experiencing highs and lows, and we want you to level out. You'll have some good games, you have some bad games. With your game, you're a pretty good player. We want you to have a more mellowed out, leveled out life. And so that's when we went to a psychiatrist. Psychiatrist prescribed me Effexor. And Effexor was the worst thing I've ever taken in my life. The Effexor had me delirious. I couldn't sleep. They said it would allow you to focus. I couldn't focus. Felt like my eyes were going back in my head, back and forth in my head. A bunch of different things. Lost my appetite. And one of the worst parts of it that I rarely talk about is that I became suicidal. It was a rough period for me because now I'm on these pills that has me spaced out. I don't feel like I'm a human being. I don't feel like I'm living. Like I'm just there. One practice after we played against the University of Richmond, I had 8 points in 9 minutes. I was 2 for 2 from the 3-point line, you know, doing my usual stuff, minutes matching the points, right? I would do that a lot. And I cramp up, but this time it wasn't a full body cramp. It was upper pec and arm, like that part of my body. I'm like, dude, am I having a heart attack? Because you hear about heart attacks, you hear that the limbs go numb and stuff like that. And just the whole left side, I'm like, what is this? Go to the hospital again. And this time, the team physician comes in, I forget his name, cool guy, you know, he's never done anything wrong. Cool guy, he was like, Lance, listen, if I were you, I wouldn't play sports again. You know, continue to play sports and your situation would place you in grave danger. I think that you could possibly play recreational here and there, but as a full-time athlete, you can't. For some reason, your body is using the muscle for fuel instead of the carbs or whatnot. And that was his advice, just stop playing, not fix your diet, not get off the pills. Stop playing. I'll leave the doctor, I go back to practice within a week or so and, you know, get into a spat with one of the players. I get hit across the head, I get up, you know, it's obviously a foul. The coaches don't call a foul. And at this time, I just had it with these guys. I mean, you know, from them going from, you know, trying to intimidate me, don't know why. Like, you can ask anybody on the team or you can ask them now, like, it's impossible to intimidate me. Like, I'm not gonna be disrespectful, but I'm just not gonna budge. If anything, I'll smile in your face if you yell at me. After getting hit in the head, I get up, I look at the coaches. I was like, you know, you guys not gonna call a foul or anything? They're like, no. Like, we don't care about you no more. We don't want you here. Cool. Well, if I get hit again, well, I'm gonna knock all of y'all out.
You know, it's not always easy, the journeys that we go through in life. And for Lance, this has been a journey. And I think where he is right now, he had to really go through all of these things to get where he is now. And without these challenges, without all of these things coming up, not that all the decisions that were made were right, because they weren't, but he did have to go through these things to get where he is now. And thankfully, he's in a much, much better place.
It was a power struggle, because imagine having a player that's broke at school. There's no NIL at this time, so you don't have the same power. When you have money, you have power. You can hire lawyers, you can have the top whatever. And they thought that they could just talk to you however, because you're a child. You don't have money. What are you gonna do? I'm in control of your destiny. Like get out of here. And that was part of me getting my power back. Like, I typically stay quiet, not wanting to cause any disruption because I wanted to make it to the NBA and I tried to play and do all this stuff. But now I'm taking a back seat for what? Like, I'm letting my dignity take a back seat to these guys who are supposed to be my superiors, that are supposed to lead me to become a better person, but I'm supposed to be able to take from them and just chill? No, not at all. They're not invested in anything. They're invested in how they're going to advance in their career. What school are they going to go to next? What their money is going to look like next, right? So the whole situation, from them coaching to the psychiatrist to everyone, it's a money game, right? The NCAA has always been a money game. It's never been about the player. But it's like they're trying to now twist it and make it seem like I'm the bad guy, but they're the ones acting like kids and yelling and screaming and trying to get aggressive. Freshman year, we play against Georgia State. We're losing halftime. We're getting beat bad. I was playing great. I wasn't mad at all. And he hits the TV. Boom, break the TV. Takes the clipboard and throw it. Boom. It gets stuck in the wall right next to my head. I'm like, not afraid of you. Like, I don't care if you're having this tantrum like a little kid. They may be afraid of you. I'm not afraid of you. Like, I don't know why y'all use these tactics. Like, this is not something that, like, it doesn't move me. Like, it doesn't get me to do more. But it makes me want to fight, because I always had to protect myself, because I was always in situations where I'm nearly dying, getting shot and all that stuff. Bullets flying past my head because I'm caught in the middle of shootouts. I'm back in that environment. So as the season goes on, my sophomore year, I'm having a rough time adjusting to the medication and a rough time. In my mind, I couldn't understand why these grown men were talking so aggressive in my face and just wanted to walk away. They didn't want to fight. Like, as a kid, to me, I was very confused. So just adapting to the way that men operated on this level, I couldn't understand it, because where I come from, men didn't operate that way. And yeah, so yes, I match that intensity. If I'm in an aggressive environment, well, then I have to be aggressive to match that environment. But for some reason, my aggression wasn't the aggression they wanted. And like I said, I don't blame anyone, right? Because everything happens for a reason. It's just that, when you go through it and you're living it and you're feeling it firsthand, it's one way to talk about things, and it's one way to live it and experience things. This experience, it isn't something that's light, because you're being told that you're crazy, but you're like, I know I'm not crazy, but you're being told that you're crazy, like something's wrong, like everyone else thinks you're crazy, and I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm on all these drugs, and once again, that drug was Effexor, then citalopram, and then they had me on Celebrex. So I was so drugged up to the point where I was liable to do anything to anyone at any time, even to myself. When the truth came out that I had sickle cell trait because I went to Eckerd College and I got a physical and they determined that I had sickle cell trait. I called the players and I got sickle cell trait. And you know, no one called me because I know, you know, they were talking. And then I called the psychologist. I was like, hey, you know, I have sickle cell trait. That's what, you know, was going on. I was like, I knew it. He was like, you know what, Lance, you know, I need you to meet me tomorrow, you know, outside your class. I guess at like 1 p.m. or something like that. And he apologized to me face to face, man to man. He was like, I need to see you in person. And he was like, Lance, you know, I apologize. I should have been taking lessons from you because you were going through something that none of us knew.
No one knew Lance had sickle cell. We just thought that he didn't, you know, drink enough fluids, he wasn't hydrating himself, you know, properly, and we just thought that he was cramping up. We found out later when he was in college that he had sickle cell trait. And looking back at it now, remembering some of the times where he would cramp up in the middle of the games, he would lay on the court, you know, he was hurting and we didn't understand what he was going through.
And then after, you know, further research on his part, we find out that he was dealing with sickle cell and something that was really going on within him that was breaking his body down. So, I mean, I remember when I heard that news, I was really devastated. I was like, damn, like, that's what he was going through. I truly believe that he was willing to die out there on the court. You know, he was gonna play to his last breath, and he pushed himself very far, and I'm glad he did not do that. I'm glad he didn't push himself to the last breath, and he went and saw it, but he was that dedicated as an athlete, so.
Newborn screening is relatively new in this country, and there's still states that don't notify the trait carrier. They only notify if there's disease present. And there are hundreds and hundreds of parents and sets of parents that I've worked with who don't know their sickle cell trait status until their child is born with sickle cell disease. That is the only way that sickle cell and sickle cell trait happens. It happens genetically. Again, it's nothing you can catch. So that is what's contributing to the prolonged or the existence of sickle cell and sickle cell trait within communities of African descent.
And here I go on drugs, not trusting a soul, because my coaches would go back and tell my high school coach and tell my uncle that I'm being a nuisance and a menace and everything, and they're not believing me because these are the adults, and I'm just a kid. What do I know, right? So my family's against me, coach is against me, all the staff and everyone's looking at me like I'm the weird one, like I'm the crazy one, right? And to me, I just felt like I was alone.
When Lance called me at one point and told me that he was really struggling at VCU with just everything in general. He wasn't playing well. Practices were difficult. He had actually gone to the hospital during one practice. You know, he was on medication and things like that. And again, it was so out of what I know of Lance. It was so, you know, just completely opposite of what I know. And I really felt that Lance was alone in many ways, that there was some isolation going on there, and that he just wasn't in a good place mentally. And he was looking for an opportunity, you know, to just get out of basketball altogether, to just go away from the sport. And you know, I didn't feel like that was his best option. I kind of felt like, Lance, you could continue, you know, your athletic pursuits, but maybe do them in a place where, you know, we can operate and we can work with people that you trust.
I got a call in 2009 from his AAU coach, Tom Topping, and Ed Hall. They both reached out to me and said that Lance might be leaving VCU, and they said, would you have any interest? And I asked them to repeat the question because obviously we had interest in talking to Lance. So on his visit here was the first time I really got to know him. And we talked about a lot of things, but I could feel he had something going on. I didn't know what it was at the time because we spent 48 hours together during his visit. But I knew there was something going on. And he I don't know if the right word is distracted, but he just had a lot on his mind at that point.
You know, I just think about a young college student going up states away, miles away to a college, kind of being on your own, and ended up in this scenario to where you're taking antidepressants for something that's not treating the exact issue. I had conversations with him where he was taking the antidepressants. He remember laying on the floor looking up and seeing the ceiling spinning, and you know, in his mind, he knows why they have him on these antidepressants, but he knows it's not solving the problem.
There's an estimation of approximately 18% of pro athletes that are living with sickle cell trait. So, sickle cell trait is not a death sentence. Sickle cell trait is not a reason to prevent someone from having a professional career, but we have to protect them. Too many athletes this time of year, the early part of the spring, especially when it comes to football workouts, this is the time of year when we're getting hospitalizations and unfortunately deaths, because coaches, fanatical coaches, and the culture, the young athletes themselves want to be pushed. They want to go so hard. They want to show, okay, it's the fourth quarter against Miami. Am I going to go hard or am I going to get water? I'm going to go hard. No, you got to get water. And this type of education, this universal education, everyone needs to know about sickle cell trait will prevent these deaths that occur too much, especially this time of year. I believe every sickle cell trait death that's attributed to exertion is preventable. It's no need. It just should not happen.
So when we found out Lance had sickle cell, he became the poster child for the NCAA, and we went through all the tests and we met with doctors so they could tell us how best to help him, and that's kind of where everything started. NCAA then contacted him the second year, but we found out there were little things that could help him originally. We found out that oxygen. So we always had oxygen on the sideline. So his first year, I think when he was at VCU, he averaged about 7 to 9 minutes a game. In his first year here, for us, he was 14 minutes a game with an oxygen tank on the side. He couldn't play more than about 2 minutes at a time, and he'd just get physically so tired and his muscles would start to cramp. So we put he'd come out, and 30 seconds later, he was ready to go again. So the first step we found out was oxygen would help. Then the next thing was IVs. Going into his second year, the doctor said if we helped him be hydrated, that would benefit him. So we'd take urine tests each time to see where his hydration level was, and he'd usually get 2 bags of IV before games, and that helped him a lot. I think he went up to 24 minutes a game his second year with us, which was his junior year in college. When we got to the point where we were doing IVs with him, our head trainer at the time went and got certified so he could do the IVs right here in the training room. And Travis Irwin was his name. I think once we knew what was going on in Lance's life with the sickle cell disease, everybody understood it. You know, our Coach Wilson, who was my assistant coach at the time, played with Peter Akintola that we mentioned earlier, who had the disease. I had had a lot of experience with it through Peter Akintola and through the process with Lance, meeting with the doctors and stuff. I think our coaching staff just understanding him a little bit and giving him giving him the benefit of the doubt when his body was acting the way it was, because we didn't know what was going on either. We had a couple training sessions where we were just running sprints and his body would seize up and lock up and he'd have to sit down on the side, and like I said, 30 seconds to a minute later he's ready to go and he's winning the sprints again. But I think the fact that we understood he was going through something and we're all trying to figure it out together, I think it gave him a little more confidence, because when he first got here, like I said, that first year, I think with everything he had been through at his former school, I think there wasn't a lot of trust with coaches. So I think the fact that our coaches would listen and let him talk and figure out ways to help him, and the doctors were in our corner helping us out all the time, I think that put him at ease a little bit. And over the course of his 3 years here, I think he realized that we were all in it together.
I coached on the team with Lance, and he was with the team for 3 years, and he did a lot of remarkable things on the court, tons of them. Every year, all the time, every game. That's where he was All-American, Player of the Year. I mean, he was obviously an outstanding player. Lance gets a lot of credit for his physique, his size, his strength. Maybe he doesn't get as much credit for his mind, his basketball mind, his IQ. Everything we threw at him, he understood. He was able to pick up. He was able to do it. He was able to be versatile. He was like a Swiss Army knife for us. We needed him to go down low on the block. He could do that. We needed him to handle the ball up top. He could do that. We needed him to make some shots. He can do that. You know, he was able to do a little bit of everything. Complete player, great basketball mind. It was, you know, for me, it was a joy, a pleasure, honor to coach Lance. I'm definitely glad I had the opportunity to do so. But my favorite play that Lance ever made was from his very first year with us. And you asked the question of what would he do to make sure that he can play? What kind of thing was he doing in the game? Sometimes he would kneel down and just rest. I remember one game against Lynn University, his first year. It was towards the end of the game, a big game, and he wouldn't come down on offense. I looked down and he'd be resting, and we just let it play. We'll play offense. His back is locked up, he's in pain, and he just sit on defense, and when they come down, he'll play lockdown defense and just rest again. It was about 3 or 4 possessions like that. And then their best player on the team at the end of the game, last possession of the game, we needed a stop. It was a guard, very good guard, but Lance is on him one-on-one. His back is locked up. Lance has nothing left in the tank. It's like the clock is winding down. He's got Lance isolated. I'm thinking to myself, man, Lance is hurt. I don't know what he's gonna be able to do. The guard went to the basket, went up, and Lance came out of nowhere and boom, blocked the shot. And I was so impressed. I was blown away just by the sheer willpower and effort to get that done, because like I said, he could not come down on offense because of locking up the pain and all that stuff, and I don't know where he gathered the strength to be able to make that defensive stop on one of the best players in the conference. But that was like my favorite play that he made in his entire career, and he made tons of them, but that was the play that stood out to me.
We encourage our young athletes to warm up, our young athletes to go from rest to exertion gradually, also known as warm up. We encourage them to hydrate before, during, and after. And proper hydration, we believe, is at least consuming half your body weight in ounces of water per day. And then you have to be allowed to recover. So we warm up, we drink up, and we rest up. So simple. That is the simple message for all of us sickle cell allies who have no abnormal hemoglobin in our bloods, but we just care enough to care. We all should be warming up, drinking up, and resting up. But this is especially important for young people that are wanting to play ball, that are wanting to participate in marching band, that are wanting to be cheerleaders or run marathons. You can do all of it if you warm up, drink up, and rest up properly.
So it was oxygen tank during the game, IV before the game. But on my side, I was doing something completely different. I was working with amino acids. One in particular, citrulline malate. Citrulline malate is a precursor for arginine, which is a precursor for nitric oxide, which dilate the veins, right? Sickle cell trait is predicated on oxygen. If there's a depletion of oxygen, the cells start to sickle up. So you want an oxygenated body at all times. So I was approaching it from the citrulline malate situation. I had cleaned up my diet. My diet was much better at that point, and was getting the oxygen and the IV therapy. Minutes started to go up. I started to play more and more and more. Come my senior year, I'm playing like 20, 24 minutes a game. Mind you, this is the most minutes I had ever played because my body just wouldn't allow me to play for that long. Senior year, I become Player of the Year. I, played a Division II All-Star game. I played for 19 minutes. I scored 24 points in a Division II All-Star game. Have a great game from there. I meet my agent that I would later go on and play in Spain at that tournament, and now it was off to Spain. Spain, the same issues follow me because now I'm in a colder region. It's a higher altitude, but the food is fresher. I now start dabbling into changing my diet. This is now when I start taking a liking to veganism, because at my school at Eckerd, the cafeteria lady was like, I know somebody in my country of DR, they're vegan, all they eat is beans and veggies and fruits, and I think that this will help you, so let me give it a shot, all right? And I changed my diet. I start taking out dairy and processed meats first. Without the IVs and the oxygen tank on top of what I was doing pretty well, but I needed that care, right? In Spain, in the third division, La Plata, they didn't have what I needed.
I remember how much he was trying to take care of what he's eating, what he's drinking, his recovery. Coaching Lance at the beginning was a big shock on the way that I remember one of the first practice that we have, running outdoor, how he started showing, because his agent told us about the problems that he had, but we never understood exactly. And I remember that we were running, and it was a moment that he was not able even to keep running more, and problems to breathe in. And this was the beginning that we have to understand a little bit how to manage and how to help Lance on the court. The thing that really impressed us of Lance is his body, how explosive he was with his size, with his weight, because he was really strong. And most of the actions that we were doing, he was most of the time the faster, the stronger. And this explosiveness was the first thing that surprised us. At the same time, player able to shoot really good when he was on the open. And these are the first two things that really make us first sign him, and at the same time when he was on the team really surprised us, especially his body conditions, his strength, and his explosiveness. The feeling that I have is, for sure, we were in left silver, third division. Was a player able to be on the second? ACB sometimes do this step is difficult because the limits of the foreigners, we can say, is only allowed for two. But the real thing is some players kind of Lance, where their bodies are really strong, really athletic, they used to have easier to play on higher level where there's more space, more shooters. And real thing is, I don't know where he was going to be his limit, but the conditions were on him. For me, maybe having time to adapt, because when I saw players in Spain start on third division, then go to second, used to be like a slow process because the type of game is completely different. But the conditions to be playing on the top level on like good European leagues was on him.
He played Division I college basketball. He came to Eckerd College and had a great college career. He went to Spain and proved that he could play professional basketball. And then I think it was kind of that last hurdle to say, is it possible for me to go play professional football?
Graham checks back in. There goes Ernest Graham. A huge run. He could take this one the distance. Slowing down, makes a cut. Graham will score.
So, the first time we talked, Lance was out in Spain, obviously, playing professional basketball. But I especially remember getting a chance to actually meet him, see him running around in person. And my first impression was like, wow, I'm saying, where has this guy been? Obviously being a professional athlete and having seen, so many guys run around the football field. The first thing I saw, I was like, man, this guy's different. Not different in the sense of like, man, this guy's just big, this guy's fast, but no, this guy is even different compared to the level I got a chance to play on. For one, just, his size, ability, speed, agility, everything on top of it, just being a natural, fluid athlete and everything just, coming to Lance, so easily. So, immediately my first impression was like, this guy belongs on the field, with some of those guys that I got a chance to play with, especially, especially at that time in the league, it having been, a number of guys who had made the transition in that way. And I just saw Lance immediately as one of those guys who had a phenomenal chance to do that. Me being a little bit older than Lance, I first initially, heard about Lance, through basketball. Obviously he went to that high school I never would have went to, but, Lance as an athlete is, obviously legendary. Not only in Fort Myers, not only in, the state of Florida, but, also nationally. I got a chance to, obviously connect with Lance after my, playing days. We knew some mutual people. We'd be around workouts together, and, at some point, I would end up, seeing really firsthand, the special athlete, not only a special person, but also the special, athlete that, Lance is and, Lance was and still is. And, kind of just made some suggestions, but, I just want to start off by just saying, man, I was just really, impressed, by Lance's profile, period, as a human being,
Probably the most versatile athlete that I've trained, and that's being honest, not because I'm on the camera. I would say that probably could have played football, because I've never seen nobody go from basketball to not playing football and getting a tryout with the Jacksonville Jaguars. So it was very rare.
I played professional basketball in Spain. Then I was with the Jacksonville Jaguars for minicamp 2 months after that. So I had zero prep time. I just jumped from one sport to the next.
Catching one-handed passes. I'm in the drills, falling down, catching it, falling out of bounds, 2 feet in, got the crowd hyped.
I think the scouts agreed that Lance has all the physical characteristics, but just time was against him at that time. His age was against him. Had he had 4 or 5 years of football under his belt, and he understood, all the nuances of the game and the position and all that, there's no question Lance would have played in the NFL. Let's be honest, Lance, if he loved football the way he loved basketball, we're not making this documentary. This is about football. I'm not even involved.
My training partner is 43, and he is reversed his body. He can dunk. He's the youngest looking 43-year-old I've ever seen. He's completely shredded. He's in the last 5 years.
Look at that. That's crazy.
He's outsledded me in the last 5 years.
One-handed hang while he's extending his legs, contracting his abs, and holding a 45-pound plate.
He rarely does that.
That's fucking wild. That's wild.
Hey, so listen, man, the first time I met Lance, man, I seen this big, super freaky athlete in the gym. It was at LA Fitness, 4th Street down in St. Pete, I'll never forget. And so I walk over to him, man, he's jumping on these like 60-inch boxes. I said, man, what's you going? He's like 300 pounds at the time. To find out, I never knew that he shared that he had sickle cell trait. And we used to go walk on the beach after we worked out, and we used to talk and really he actually gave me my name, Mr. Infinity, at the time, one of these days walking on the beach. And I just kind of talked to him about what I feel like what could have helped him with his condition. And one of those things was sunbathing. I understood how powerful, a lot of people just like to say it's vitamin D and try to compartmentalize what the sun truly is. And it's just bigger than that, you know? And I know that some things just don't have words, but I know what it did for me. And I just kind of just told Lance, and he really took it and ran with it and kind of compounded what I even told him. And come to find out, it was one of the saving graces for him and his sickle cell trait.
I didn't quite understand until I met Mr. Infinity. That's where it all takes a turn. I'm training with Mr. Infinity. He's a trainer out in Clearwater, Florida. He's originally from Indiana. He tells me about how he goes out in the sun and sometimes he feels like he doesn't have to eat. He feels like he's on testosterone when he's in the sun. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'll look it up. He's right. Light is the most important nutrient to any human because we're a walking solar panel. We're absorbing light no matter where we go.
With regards to the melanin, outside of the electrons, like I mentioned, the molecular oxygen that's produced in response to sunlight striking the melanin in your skin, that oxygen can now go into your cells and your tissues. So if you have something like sickle cell or anything that's preventing oxygen transport efficiency, harnessing melanin and sun exposure on that melanin on your surface is going to be huge for oxygenating and supporting your tissue metabolism in the absence of an effective transport mechanism for oxygen via hemoglobin in the blood. So I wanted to make sure I mention that because there's just so much benefit to getting your skin in the sun, especially like as much skin as you can, in addition to the nitric oxide and everything like that. But with regards to athletes, in particular basketball players, because, you know, we see you guys, you're playing late night games, you're under these terrible artificial lights that are telling your body it's the middle of the day. And we see like injury rates, soft tissue injury rates in basketball are just off the charts relative to basically every other sport. And I really think that that's pointing to not only the circadian mismatch and the light mismatch, but also the type of light that's being used. There's a lot of nuance around sun exposure. For people who have darker skin, we need more sunlight because melanin absorbs all wavelengths of light. And so what that means is if we're just talking about, let's say, vitamin D, which is a well-known, basically biomarker of sun exposure habits. It's not something to be supplemented. All of the clinical trials showing vitamin D supplementation outcomes are basically no benefits to anything outside of reducing rickets or preventing rickets, which is like very severe deficiency. Outside of that, we're really getting the benefits of vitamin D via sunlight production of vitamin D, which is essentially serving as a biomarker of UV light exposure, because that UVB light in particular is required to convert that pre-vitamin D or the 7-dehydrocholesterol into pre-vitamin D, which can then go on to be further activated in the kidneys and the liver. But that 25-hydroxyvitamin D form that's tested in blood tests is really serving as this indicator, this proxy for how much time you're spending outside. And when you're outside in the sun in nature, you're also getting, more fresh air, more biodiversity from natural environments. You're also producing a whole host of other types of molecules in response to the sun. So just UVB light in particular, we also produce this prohormone called pro-opiomelanocortin, or POMC, that's cleaved into 10 distinct hormonal products, 3 of which are alpha, beta, and gamma endorphins, which are these endogenous opioid molecules that reduce anxiety, reduce depression, improve critical thinking, improve learning and memory, modulate the immune system. Also, we have alpha, beta, and gamma MSH, or melanocyte-stimulating hormone, which are these hormones that are required to stimulate the melanocytes to make new melanin. So that's how you get a tan in response to the sun. But in addition to that, those melanocyte stimulating hormones are also stimulating melanin production in deeper parts of the body too, because there's actually melanin throughout our system, especially at like our sensory borders. So our skin, our taste buds, our nasal mucosa, the inner ear. There's melanin deep in the brain as well. So all of these melanin depots are really important for reasons that we can kind of unpack with regards to melanin biology and how that's benefiting us.
I went back to play in Spain with this newfound knowledge, 2018. Lo and behold, I could play 4 games. No IVs, no oxygen tanks, 4 games, full practice, lifting weights, dunking on people. I'm 29, going on 30. It's not like I'm a young kid. I had never had so much energy and so much like vitality that I had ever at that point. Like it was amazing, because now I could realize my potential. But I'm a little bit older and I was 5 years removed from the game, and I'm like behind the 8 ball, but at the same time I love this feeling I could just play every day and practice every day, twice to 3 times without any issues. Because my main issue when playing in Spain is that they make you play twice a day, practice twice a day, and only 1 game a week. I have sickle cell. I didn't like that. My body didn't like that. But now I reversed the issue by using nature. 7 natural doctors: sun, diet, sleep, exercise, water, air, stress management. Hold up, it's gone? What is this? I struggled in college and couldn't make the NFL and all this stuff. And all I needed was to just do what God gave us. Oh, okay.
Lance was always in tune with, trying to be physically strong and be able to do the things that he wanted to do from an athletic standpoint. And so to see his progression now to really understanding his body and the things that go into it and the things that he exposes it to, and to see his frame the way that it is now, and that it's simply working great for him. During his years in professional basketball, there was the Lance that I remembered playing for me in high school.
He had it under control. I mean, he practiced daily. He played in games, played most of the games. When the coach would take him out, he'd be pissed off. Felt like he needed more minutes. I remember him like tearing rims down. Like I always tell a lot of players, Lance is the strongest guy I ever played with. My boy Lance was breaking machines. He literally broke a machine in the gym the day before the game. I've never also seen a player like want to do 1-leg lunges and stuff before the game, single leg lunges, and Lance was doing that stuff, heavy weights, like day before the game, and was able to perform. So it was rare to see. Lance is honestly the first person to introduce me to CMOS. I remember him always coming to practice. He would have like this 1.5 liter bottle, like he stayed with it. I was always into health too, because I went to a culinary college and a lot of my friends are chefs and nutritionists, so I was big on health and what I put into my body. The first person I ever seen really taking CMOS, I've still never seen really a person drink it the way he drinks it. Like it looked like just water, you know what I mean, more or less, compared to like people drinking it in smoothies and stuff or just taking shots of it. He would drink like 1.5 liters a day type thing. And then I remember him picking out like this restaurant we would go to. It was like an all-you-can-eat buffet, and we would go there probably every day because of all the food they had. He was very invested in his body, making sure like he was going to get spelt bread, and you know what I'm saying, from the market. And even when we went on road trips, he would go to he wouldn't even eat what the hotel was giving us, the team. He would be like, yo, this has too much oil on it, vegetables that they give me. I'm gonna just go to the market, and go buy fruit and spelt bread and peanut butter. And that's what that was his pre-game or road trip meal and stuff like that. And You know what I mean? I mean, I seen them do it, and it was rare to see someone take care of their body like that. Eat a lot of lentils, eat a lot of chickpeas, you know, and be very, very like disciplined. You know what I mean? Some people do it and take days off, but it was like, this is really his lifestyle.
Look at old Sam. Oh, that boy was good in golf.
I can honestly say that for somebody scoring, who holds a school record in high school for scoring points in a game and also in a career, for someone that had a very successful college basketball career, and then to get a tryout with the Jaguars, not playing a down of football, that kind of says a lot. But I think he would have either played in the NBA or the NFL if it weren't for this.
But the big thing about Lance has always been his motor, being able to really, really go hard for extended periods of time. And when that became a challenge for him, that was, I think, the thing that was really the catalyst that sent him off, you know, to what he's doing now.
And no one, you know, like from, you know, the coaches and, you know, they couldn't understand it. So they tried to put a Band-Aid on it, or they tried to dismiss it. You know, no one really gave it the attention that Lance gave it, and I think that's why he got the discoveries that he got.
What I did is I was like, no matter what I do in this lifetime, I'm gonna take my story and I'm gonna make sure nobody else really has to suffer from whatever they're going through. It can be sickle cell trait, it could be mental issues, it could be heart disease, it could be diabetes, it could be anything, right? Because the basis of all that is making sure yourself is completely healthy. Right. Once you put your body at a state of equilibrium or homeostasis, you can do a bunch of different things. It's not just doing my regimen, right? It's about taking care of yourself, taking accountability for your health, experimenting with certain things that work better for you, but being in tune with your body, understanding your body and how you feel. So I told myself that after I went through what I went through and figured out the things that I figured out, I was gonna tell everybody what I did. So this is what I'm doing. I'm telling you about the story of the monster within. How I was dealing with something that held me back and I was able to overcome it by natural remedies, by getting out there and doing what I was supposed to do. Being involved in nature, being outside, getting air, getting water, getting sleep, managing my stress, sunbathing, changing my diet. I call it the 7 natural doctors.
It's difficult to come out of those environments, and so I commend him for the hard work he's done, the dedication he's put into his craft, and you know, the sky's the limit for Lance.
Well, I think it's important for people to realize we don't have the surveillance that we need. The statistics the numbers that show that there are 100,000 people, 90 to 100,000 people in the United States living with sickle cell disease, and somewhere between 2 to 4 million living with sickle cell trait. Those are old numbers based on old surveillance. I honestly believe there's way more. So it's just too important to know your status. Know your status so you can be aware, and certainly when it comes to the family planning aspect of things, don't be caught by surprise when you are, bring a person with sickle cell disease into the world without being prepared. This is not saying don't have a sickle cell disease baby. This is saying have all the information that you can have. So, and based on the numbers of adjusting for population and the number of people of African descent, the number of people of Hispanic descent, a number of people of Caucasian descent, there's an estimation of approximately 18% of pro athletes that are living with sickle cell trait. So, sickle cell trait is not a death sentence. Sickle cell trait is not a reason to prevent someone from having a professional career, but we have to protect them. This type of education, this universal education, everyone needs to know about sickle cell trait will prevent these deaths that occur too much, especially this time of year. I believe every sickle cell trait death that's attributed to exertion is preventable. It's no need. It just should not happen.